There is a story that Jesus himself told, not to kings, not to scholars, not to those who had everything figured out. He told this story to the broken ones. To the ones sitting at the back, ashamed to come forward. To the ones who whispered to themselves, I have gone too far. God could never want me back. And if that is you today, if you are carrying that weight right now, then this story is not just a story. It is a letter, written by heaven, addressed to you. Luke chapter 15. A father had 2 sons. A home full of warmth, a table always full, fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. And love, the kind of love that asks for nothing in return. But one day, the younger son walked up to his father and said something that no son should ever say. Father, give me my share of the inheritance. Now. While you are still alive. In that time, in that culture, those words meant only one thing. I do not want you, Father. I only want what you have. I wish you were already gone. It was not just a request. It was a wound, delivered with open eyes, to a father who had done nothing, but love his son. And you would expect the father to be angry. You would expect him to say, how dare you, after everything I have done for you. You would expect him to force his son to stay, to lock the door, to make him understand what he was throwing away. But he did not. The father quietly divided his wealth and gave the younger son everything he asked for. And then, he let him go. Let that settle in your heart for a moment. God never forces you to stay. He never chains you to his love. He never manipulates you into choosing him. He opens his hands, even when it costs him everything, because real love does not grip. Real love releases. And sometimes the most painful thing a loving father can do is let you walk away, so that one day you choose to walk back. Not because you had to, but because you wanted to. The son packed everything and ran. He won. As far as he could go, to a distant land, away from his father's voice, away from his father's eyes, away from everything that reminded him of home. And there, he spent it all. Every coin, every blessing, every single thing his father had placed into his hands, gone. Wasted on things that glittered for a moment, then left him completely empty. This is what happens when we force our own season. When we demand what God has not yet released to us. When we say, I know better, I know when I am ready, I know what I need. And we take it before it's time, and we spend it on what was never meant for us. The blessing was real. The Father's love was real. But the timing was wrong. And a blessing received outside of God's timing becomes a burden you were never meant to carry alone. And then the Bible says a great famine came to that land. The son who once had everything now had nothing. He who once laughed with friends around a full table now sat alone, hungry, forgotten. He ended up feeding pigs in a stranger's field. A Jewish boy, feeding pigs. Could there be a more complete picture of how far a soul can wander from home? He was so hungry he wanted to eat the food he was giving to the animals. And no one gave him anything. Not one person from those wild days of spending, not one so-called friend, came to find him. Because the world celebrates you when you have something to give. But the moment your pockets are empty, the world moves on. And there he sat. In the mud, in the smell, in the silence. Completely alone. And yet, even there, God had not forgotten him. Even in that distant land, even in that pigsty, the Father's heart was still reaching for his son. Because that is the kind of God we serve. He does not stop loving you when you stop calling his name. He does not turn away from you when you turn away from him. He does not force you to come back, but he never stops watching for your return. And then the Bible says something so beautiful, so simple, that it is easy to miss. He came to himself. Not when someone preached at him. Not when someone judged him. Not when life became comfortable again. He came to himself, in the pit. in the hunger, in the silence. And sometimes that is exactly where God allows things to become quiet, not to punish you, but to bring you back to yourself. To the truth of who you are. To the memory of whose you are. He thought of his father's house. He remembered that even the servants there, the hired workers, had more than enough to eat. And here he was, dying of hunger in a foreign land. Surrounded by people who did not even know his name. And he made a decision. I will arise, and go to my father. Just that. No grand plan. No strategy. No waiting until he was clean enough, or good enough, or worthy enough. Just, I will arise. And I will go. That is where your miracle begins too. Not when you have everything figured out. Not when you have cleaned yourself up first. Not when you feel ready. It begins the moment you turn around. The moment you take one single step toward home. But on the way home, something happened inside that boy. The closer he got to his, the louder the shame became. He began to rehearse his words. He practiced what he would say, over and over again as he walked. Father, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. He had already decided what he deserved. He had already assigned himself the lowest place. He had already written himself out of the family, before his father had said a single word. And that is what shame does to us. It tells us we have gone too far. It tells us the door is closed. It tells us that even if we go back, we will only be allowed in through the back entrance, as a servant, never again as a son. But watch what the Father does, because this is the part that will change everything you believed about God. The Son was still a great way off. Still far down the road. Still covered in the mud of that pigsty. Still rehearsing his speech of unworthiness. And his Father saw him. Not when he arrived at the door. Not when he knocked. Not when he had cleaned himself up. While he was still far away, his Father saw him. Which means only one thing, the Father had been watching. Every single day, the Father had been standing at that window, looking down that road, waiting, hoping, watching for the silhouette of his Son on the horizon. And the moment he saw him, the Father ran. Not walked. Not waited for his Son to come to him. Not stood at the door with crossed arms waiting for an explanation. He ran. A father in that culture, in those times, did not run. Running was undignified for a man of his position. But he did not care about his dignity. He did not care what the neighbors thought. He did not care about the hurt, or the wound, or the wasted inheritance. He saw his Son, and he ran. And he fell on his neck, and he kissed him. Before the boy could say a single word. Before the rehearsed speech. Before any explanation. Before any promise to do better. The Father held him, and kissed him. This is the God who has been watching for you. This is the God who sees you while you are still far away. This is the God who does not wait for you to clean yourself up before he embraces you. He runs to you. In your mess. In your shame. In your unfinished repentance. In your broken words and your rehearsed apologies. He runs, and he holds you, and he does not let go. The Son began his speech. Father, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the Father was not listening to the speech. He was already calling to his servants. Bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his hand. Put sandals on his feet. The robe was not just clothing. It was covering. It was the Father saying, I see your shame, and I cover it. The ring was not just jewelry. It was the family seal. It was the Father saying, you are still my son. Your name is still on this family. Nothing you did removed you from this house. The sandals were not just for his feet. Servants went barefoot. Sons wore sandals. The father was saying, "You did not come back as a servant. You came back as a son. You never stopped being my son." And then the father said, "Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found." And they began to celebrate. Now I want you to stop here for a moment, and let this sink into the deepest part of your heart. The father did not celebrate because his son had earned it. He did not celebrate because his son had paid back the money. He did not celebrate because his son had proven himself worthy again. He celebrated, simply because his son had come home. That is it. That is all it took. Just coming home. And maybe today you are sitting somewhere, carrying the weight of everything you have done. Maybe you have made choices you are ashamed of. Maybe you have walked away from God so many times that you stopped counting. Maybe you have wasted things He gave you, time, relationships, opportunities, faith, and you look at your hands now and they are empty. And the enemy whispers to you, "It is too late. You have gone too far. You have used up all your chances. God is tired of you. He has moved on." But I am here to tell you today, that is a lie. Because the father in this story never moved on. He never stopped watching that ROA. He never gave that son's room to someone else. He never took his name off the door. Every single day, he watched, and he waited, and he hoped. And that is your God. That is who He is. Not a God who keeps score. Not a God who waits for you to earn your way back. Not a God who makes you prove yourself before He opens the door. He is a God who runs, while you are still far away. He is a God who covers your shame, before you finish your apology. He is a God who restores your identity, not because you deserved it, but because you are His. You were always His. Nothing you did changed that. Nothing you said changed that. No distance you traveled, no money you wasted, no sin you carried, none of it removed you from His heart. You are still His son. You are still His daughter. And He has been watching that road, waiting for you, every single day. But the story does not end there. Because there was another son. While all of this was happening, while the father was running and embracing and celebrating, the older son was out in the field working. He had stayed. He had been faithful. He had never left, never wasted anything, never embarrassed the family. And as he came closer to the house, he heard music. He heard dancing. He heard celebration. And he called one of the servants and asked, "What is happening?" And the servant said, "Your brother has come home. And your father has killed the fattened calf because he has received him back safe and sound." And the older son was angry. He refused to go in. He stood outside while the party continued inside. And his father came out to him, and pleaded with him to come in. But the older son said, "Look, I have been serving you for all these years. I never disobeyed your command. And yet you never gave me even a young goat so that I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, this one who wasted your wealth, you killed the fattened calf for him." And in those words, you can hear something very familiar. You can hear the voice of comparison. The voice of resentment. The voice that says, "I did everything right, so why is he being rewarded and I am not?" And maybe you know that voice. Maybe you have been the older son at some point in your life. Faithful, obedient, present, but quietly angry. Quietly keeping score. Quietly wondering why God seems to bless others who seem to deserve it less than you. Doing very thing right on the outside, but carrying bitterness on the inside. And the father looked at his older son with the same love he had for the younger one. And he said, "Son, you are always with me. And everything I have is yours. Everything I have is yours." The older son had been living in his father's house all along. He had access to everything. He had the Father's presence every single day. But he had been so focused on what he was doing for the Father, that he had forgotten to simply enjoy being with the Father. And that is a different kind of distance. Not the distance of running away, but the distance of being physically present, while your heart is somewhere else entirely. Both sons were lost. One was lost in a far country. The other was lost right outside the front door. One was lost in sin. The other was lost in religion. One was lost in pleasure. The other was lost in performance. And the Father went out to find them both. Because that is what this Father does. He does not wait inside for you to figure it out. He comes out to where you are. Whether you are in a pigsty in a distant land, or standing right outside his door with a heart full of resentment, he comes out to you. He meets you exactly where you are. And now I want to ask you something, and I want you to sit with this question honestly, without rushing past it. Which son are you today? Are you the younger son, the one who has wandered? The one who took what God gave you and ran in the opposite direction? The one who is sitting right now in a distant place, tired, empty, ashamed, wondering if there is still a way back home? Or are you the older son, the one who never left but slowly grew cold inside? The one who shows up, does the right things, says the right words, but somewhere along the way lost the joy of simply being loved? The one who is faithful on the outside but exhausted and resentful on the inside? Because both of these sons needed the Father. Both of them were missing something. And the Father's heart was aching for both of them, in different ways, at the same time. And maybe today you are a little bit of both. Maybe you have wandered in some areas of your life, and in other areas you have stayed but grown bitter. Maybe you are tired of running, and also tired of performing. Maybe you are just tired. And God sees that. He sees all of it. Not with judgment, but with a love so deep and so patient that it has been waiting for this exact moment, this exact conversation between your heart and heaven, to say to you, come home. Just come home. You do not need to have the right words. You do not need to have a perfect plan. You do not need to clean yourself up first or figure out how to make things right before you take a step. The Father is already at the window. He is already watching the road. He already sees you, right where you are, and he is already moving toward you. That is the God this story reveals. Not a God who sits on a throne with a list of your failures, waiting to recite them back to you the moment you walk through the door. But a God who runs. A God who embraces. A God who covers. A God who restores. A God who celebrates. A God who throws a party, not because you earned it, but because you came home. And I want to tell you something about that robe the Father put on his Son. In that time, when a father placed his own robe on someone's shoulders, it was a public statement. Everyone watching could see it. The neighbors, the servants, everyone in that village knew what that robe meant. It meant, this person is under my covering. This person belongs to me. Whatever they did before, I am declaring today that they are mine. And that is exactly what God does when you come back to him. He does not whisper your restoration quietly in a corner where no one can see. He covers you publicly. He declares over you openly. He says to every voice that has ever told you that you are too far gone, too broken, too shameful to be loved, this one is mine. I have placed my robe on their shoulders. And no one, takes what belongs to me. The enemy wants you to believe that your past defines you. That the things you have done have permanently changed how God sees you. That there is a version of you that God used to love, before all of this, and now that version is gone. But the Father's robe says otherwise. The ring on the finger says otherwise. The sandals on the feet say otherwise. The celebration, the music, the dancing, all of it says otherwise. God is not mourning the person you used to be. He is celebrating the person who just walked through the door. Right now, As you are. With everything you are carrying. With every scar and every mistake and every season of wandering still written on your face. He celebrates you. Today. As you are. Because you are home. And this is where so many people get stuck. They accept the idea of God's forgiveness in their mind, but they cannot receive it in their heart. They say the words, "Yes, God forgives me," but they keep punishing themselves long after God has already thrown the party. They stand at the edge of the celebration, too afraid to walk in. Too convinced that they do not belong there. Too used to carrying the weight of who they were, to fully step into the freedom of who they now are. And God looks at them from inside that room, with music playing and joy overflowing, and He says the same thing the father said to the older son. "Come in. Everything I have is yours. Stop standing outside. Stop punishing yourself for what I have already forgiven. Stop living like a servant in a house where you are a son. Stop surviving when I have prepared a table for you to feast. Come in. You belong here. Not because you earned your place. Not because you were perfect. Not because you never wandered or doubted or failed. But because you are His, and He is yours, and that has never changed. Not for one single moment has that ever changed. Now let us talk about something that nobody likes to talk about, the journey back. Because coming home sounds beautiful in a story. It sounds simple. You turn around, you walk back, the father runs, the robe goes on, the party begins. And yes, that is exactly what happens in the Spirit. The moment you turn toward God, heaven moves instantly. There is no delay in His love, no hesitation in His embrace. But in the real world, in your real life, the journey back can feel long. It can feel lonely. It can feel like you are walking the same road you ran down, but now in the opposite direction, and every step reminds you of what you left behind, what you wasted, what you broke. And on that road, the enemy will try to stop you. He will whisper things to you as you walk. He will say, "You have tried this before." He will say, "You will just mess it up again." He will say, "Look at how far you have to go. Look at everything you have to fix. Look at all the people you have hurt. Look at all the time you have lost." And those whispers, if you listen to them long enough, will slow your feet. They will make the road feel longer than it is. They will make home feel further than it is. But here is what I want you to know. The road back does not have to be perfect. You do not have to walk it without stumbling. You do not have to arrive home having already fixed everything you broke on the way out. The prodigal son did not stop along the road and repay every debt. He did not visit every person he had hurt and make things right before going home. He did not earn his way back step by step. He simply walked. One foot in front of the other. Toward his father's house. That was enough. And it is oof for you too. Every step you take toward God today, He honors. Every moment you choose to turn back toward Him instead of continuing to run, He sees. Every quiet prayer whispered in the dark, every tear shed in honest surrender, every morning you wake up and choose to try again, none of it is wasted. None of it goes unnoticed. He sees every step. And with every step you take toward Him, He takes 1,000 steps toward you. Because that is the mathematics of heaven. You move an inch toward God, and God moves mountains toward you. You open your heart just a little, and He floods it with more love than you have ever known. You whisper His name in the dark, and He answers with a. That is the love that this story was always trying to show us. And I want to speak now to someone specific. Someone who has been sitting with this message and feeling something stir inside them. Something they have not felt in a long time. A warmth. A pull. A quiet longing for something they lost, or maybe something they never fully had. Maybe you grew up hearing about God but never truly experienced Him as a father. Maybe the word father carries pain for you, not comfort, because the fathers in your life did not love the way this Father loves. Maybe it is hard for you to picture God running toward you, because in your experience, people always ran away. If that is you, I want you to hear this directly. The Father in this story is everything that every earthly father was supposed to be and was not. He is the love you were searching for in all those distant places. He is the acceptance you were trying to buy with your achievements. He is the belonging you were trying to find in all those wrong places. He is not like the people who left. He is not like the ones who gave up on you. He is not like the voices that told you that you were too much or not enough. He is the Father who runs. The Father who covers. The Father who restores. The Father whose love has no conditions and no expiration date and no limit. And He has been waiting for you. Not with disappointment, but with longing. Not with a list of your failures, but with a robe already in His hands. Not with crossed arms, but with open ones. He has been waiting for this moment. This exact moment. Where something inside you softens just enough to let Him in. Where the walls come down just a little. Where you stop running, or stop performing, or stop pretending, and you just become honest. Honest enough to say, Father, I am tired. I have been trying to do this on my own and I cannot do it anymore. I have been running and I am exhausted. I have been performing and I am empty. I have been carrying things that were never mine to carry, and I need to come home. That prayer is enough. That honesty is enough. That one step toward Him is more than enough. Because the Father is already running. And so we come to the end of this story, but not the end of yours. Because the prodigal son's story did not end at the party. It continued the next morning when he woke up in his father's house, in a real bed, with a real roof over his head, wearing that robe. It continued in the days after, when he had to learn again how to live as a son and not as a servant. When he had to unlearn the shame that had become so familiar to him. When he had to accept, slowly and quietly, that he truly belonged there. And your story continues too. Coming home to God is not just a moment, it is a life. It is a daily choice to stay. A daily choice to receive His love instead of pushing it away. A daily choice to believe what He says about you, rather than what your past says about you. And some days that will feel easy. You will wake up and feel His presence so close that it takes your breath away. You will read a verse and it will feel like He wrote it just for you, just for today. You will pray and feel the words flowing out of you like water, like something that has been waiting a long time to be released. And other days it will feel harder. You will wake up and feel nothing. You will pray and the ceiling will feel like concrete. You will look at your life and the distance between where you are and where you want to be will feel overwhelming. And on those days, the enemy will try to use that silence, that emptiness, to convince you that you were wrong to come home. That nothing really changed. That you are still the same person who wasted everything in that distant land. And on those days, I want you to remember the robe. Not the feeling. Not the emotion. Not the experience of the moment you came home. But the robe. The ring. The sandals. The fact that the Father put them on you. The fact that He declared over you publicly, permanently, without hesitation, this one is mine. Feelings come and go. Emotions rise and fall. But what the Father declared over you, that does not change with your mood or your circumstances or the silence of a difficult morning. It is written. It is sealed. It is done. You are His. And that is enough to keep walking. Because here is the truth that this whole story has been built. Ding toward, the truth that Jesus wanted every broken, wandering, ashamed, exhausted person to hear when He told this parable. You were never too far. You were never too gone. You were never too broken, too dirty, too lost, too late. The distance you traveled did not shrink the Father's love. The things you wasted did not diminish His joy at your return. The shame you carried did not make him hesitate for even 1 second before running toward you. There is no version of your story that ends with God deciding you are not worth running for. There is no depth you can sink to where His love cannot reach you. There is no wall you can build high enough to block His view of you. There is no distance far enough, no silence long enough, no failure great enough to make Him stop watching that road. He is always watching. He is always ready. He is always waiting. And maybe right now, as these words are settling into your heart, you are feeling something. Maybe it is a warmth you have not felt in a long time. Maybe it is tears you did not expect. Maybe it is a quiet breaking open of something that has been closed for years. Maybe it is just a small, still, gentle sense that something in you is shifting. Do not push that away. Do not explain it away. Do not wait until you feel more ready or more worthy or more certain. That feeling, that stirring, that is the Father running toward you right now. That is heaven moving in response to your heart turning, even just a little, in His direction. And all He is asking you to do, is take one step. Just one. You do not have to have it all figured out. You do not have to fix everything first. You do not have to be a different person before you come to Him. You just have to come. Come with your mess. Come with your questions. Come with your shame and your failures and your empty hands. Come exactly as you are, because that is exactly who He is waiting for. Not the polished version of you. Not the version that has everything together. Not the version that never wandered or doubted or fell. He is waiting for you, the real you, the one standing right now at the edge of the road, wondering if it is too late to come home. It is not too late. It was never too late. And it will never be too late. The door is open. The robe is ready. The Father is running. All you have to do, is come home. And if this story has touched something deep inside you today, if something in your heart has shifted, softened, or opened, then do not let this moment pass without responding to it. Write in the comments right now, "I am coming home." Let those words be your first step. Let them be your declaration of faith, your one step toward the Father who has been watching for you. And if someone in your life is sitting in that distant place right now, tired and ashamed and convinced that they have gone too far, share this video with them. Send it to them right now. Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for someone we love, is simply show them the road home. Subscribe to this channel if this message has spoken to your heart, because every week God places something here for the ones who are walking through hard seasons. The ones who need to be reminded that they are not forgotten. That they are not too far. That they are loved beyond anything they can measure or earn or deserve. And now I want to close with something very practical. Because everything we have talked about today, every truth, every revelation, every moment of your heart opening, needs somewhere to land. It needs roots. It needs to go from something you felt today, to something you live every day.